There are many places across our planet that are known for their foggy weather. But nowhere is quite as mysterious as the city that's always covered in fog. Now, some believe this place to be real, while others think it's all just a made-up story. But one thing we do know is that if such a place did exist, it would be here. Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. Today we're going to explore the strange story of the city that's always covered in mysterious fog. It may not be where you're expecting. Scientists have actually concluded that if a city were to experience constant fog, it would need to meet 3 requirements. The first is that the area needs to be in a valley, since valleys tend to trap moisture better than exposed areas. The second is that the average annual temperature needs to be about 64 degrees Fahrenheit, or 18 degrees Celsius. And finally, the relative humidity needs to exceed 80%. As it turns out, there's actually only one place on Earth that meets these requirements, and it's here, in a remote region of Chile. However, as incredible as this may sound, scientists ultimately concluded that the fog would only appear dense and thick at ground level, much like what happens in San Francisco, which experiences a similar climate. Above this layer of fog, the sky would be clear and sunny. So even though people living in this hypothetical city wouldn't be able to see it, the sun would still shine through the clouds above them, giving those high up a beautiful view of the world around them. Anyone who lived on the surrounding hills would be able to look into the valley below and see the dense fog covering the entire city. As fascinating as this may sound, let's now take a closer look at the city itself and find out how life would be like for those living inside the giant bubble of mist. Here, the air would be filled with tiny water droplets that would cover everything in sight. This means that when you go outside, you'd be met with an eerie silence as the sound waves would struggle to pass through the thick fog, making it nearly impossible to hear anything. Not only that, but visibility would drop significantly, meaning you'd struggle to see more than a few feet in front of you. For this reason, many of the buildings throughout the city would need to be equipped with bright lights so that people could navigate the streets at night. Although the idea of living in a city that's constantly shrouded in fog may seem exciting at first, the reality would quickly set in. It would be extremely hard to keep your home clean since everything would quickly become wet and muddy. And the water droplets in the air would also make it impossible to have a fire since the oxygen would be displaced by water vapor. Even breathing would be difficult. Ultimately, people would develop a resistance to the fog, but it would still be unpleasant to live in. Most people would probably stay indoors during the day and then venture out at night when it's too dark to see the fog anyway. To combat the dampness, they might develop homes with special humidifiers to keep the air dry and warm. Many of these devices would likely need to be powered by geothermal energy, since the air would be too foggy for solar panels to function. Now, depending on who you ask, there may be another reason why the people of this city would stay inside. Legend has it that centuries ago something terrible happened here. One day a thick fog rolled in and never left. The residents were horrified as they had never seen anything like it before. At first it was exciting, like something out of a fantasy book, but soon it became terrifying. Some say the fog had a sinister purpose, while others say it arrived with a terrible curse. Whatever the truth may be, after the fog came, people began to disappear. Some say the fog had a magical ability to pull people inside of it and then teleport them to another dimension. Others claim that the fog had a hypnotic effect that caused people to wander aimlessly until they eventually collapsed from exhaustion. There are also those who say that the fog itself was alive and that it hunted the city's residents, feeding off their life force. To escape the fog, some tried to flee to the surrounding hills, but soon realized that it wasn't just in the city, it was everywhere. Those who didn't make it far enough away found themselves pulled back into the abyss of white. No one knows exactly how many people disappeared, but the legend claims that every single person who ventured outside was eventually taken. After the last person disappeared, the fog began to consume the city, literally eating away at the buildings until they crumbled to dust. Today, it's said that the spirits of those who disappeared still walk the foggy streets looking for anyone who might have strayed too far. Those who have heard this legend claim that it's the reason why nobody lives in the city today. But others say there must be more to the story. If the fog really was alive, why would it let people enter without putting up a fight? Why didn't it swallow them right away? Well, the people who believe that there's more to the mystery suggest that the fog only consumes those who have bad intentions. In other words, it's not aggressive, but it's also not afraid to defend itself. This means that if you entered the city with pure intentions, the fog wouldn't harm you. But if you planned on causing destruction or stealing from the abandoned city, the fog would stop at nothing to protect it. This could explain why so many people disappeared. Maybe they weren't strong enough to resist the call of the city and wandered in without thinking. Perhaps they had ill intentions and planned on stealing whatever resources they could find. Or maybe they were simply curious and wanted to see what would happen. Whatever the case may be, this legend helps us understand why nobody wants to live in the city today. But it's not all just folklore and myth. There are actually a few places around the world that experience similar legends. For example, in the Chilean city of Valdivia, which is located a few hundred miles south of Santiago, there's a similar story about a thick fog that consumed the city and took everyone within it. The story is said to have originated from a local Mapuche legend about a monster called the Villain, which lived in the nearby mountains. The Villain was said to have the power to create thick fogs that could trap anyone who entered the city. Although this legend is likely just a myth, Valdivia does experience heavy fog, especially during the winter months. San Francisco is another city that experiences a great deal of fog. And because of this, the locals have developed a unique culture around it. They embrace the fog and even celebrate it with an annual festival called Fog Day. Speaking of cities, let's now return to the city that's always covered in mysterious fog. Did such a place really exist? There's no way to say for sure, but there are a few clues that can help us decide. First, the legend claims that the city is located deep within a valley. This is important because, as we mentioned earlier, the fog would need to be trapped somewhere, and a valley is the perfect place for that to happen. Second, the legend claims that the city is almost never seen, which makes sense, since if the city were visible, the fog would eventually dissipate and reveal itself. Finally, the legend claims that anyone who entered the city disappeared. This seems plausible since if the city were real, it would be very easy to get lost. Without any landmarks, it would be nearly impossible to navigate the endless sea of white. So could there be a real city that's always covered in mysterious fog? While it's possible, it's unlikely. There are, however, many places around the world that experience heavy fog, such as parts of Siberia, northern Europe, and the coastal areas of Chile and Argentina. Maybe the legend originated from one of these places. But ultimately, without any evidence to go off of, we'll never know for sure. Now, what do you think? Is there a city near you that's always covered in fog? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Thanks for watching. See you next time.